North, we are releasing a must-have collection of Johnny North merchandise in our store at merch.ringsidereport.net, starting with our limited edition Johnny Genesis North 3/4 sleeve t-shirt. With a unique design capturing Johnny in action, this tee exudes raw energy and intensity through its versatile 3/4 sleeves for any weather. Stand with our legendary co-host, Johnny North. Make a bold statement in the wrestling community by getting yours today, exclusively at merch.ringsidereport.net.
The discipline of jiu-jitsu, the elegance of a perfect pour. Introducing the jiu-jitsu-inspired shaker pint glass. Crafted for the martial artist in you. 16 ounces of pure elegance, perfect for post-training refreshment or a sophisticated cocktail evening. Durable, stylish, versatile. Not just a glass, but a testament to your dedication. Celebrate your passion with every sip. The Jiu-Jitsu Shaker Pint Glass. Cheers to mastery. Available now in our store. Go to merch.ringsidereport.net and get yours now.
Strength in every sip.
Here's a programming note from the Ringside Report Network. Every Friday, join Dave Simon along with pro wrestler Johnny Genesis North as they break down the week that was pro wrestling on Wrestling Uncensored. Join them live starting after WWE SmackDown and during AEW Rampage at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here, or as an audio podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to share this broadcast and review our podcasts on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out. Why not become a member of the Ringside Report universe? Go right now before the show starts to membership.ringsidereport.net. That's membership.ringsidereport.net.
Each and every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, dive deep into the heart of MMA with Ringside Report MMA. Join seasoned analysts Dave Simon, Fred Garcia, and my good friend AJ D'Alexio as they dissect every fight, analyze strategies, and reveal their top betting predictions. From main events to prelims, our trio deep dives into the strengths, weaknesses, and potential game changers for each fighter. Looking to place a bet? Benefit from the expertise of our analysts and get an edge over the competition. Discover lesser-known facts, training camp secrets, and behind-the-scenes tidbits that only our seasoned crew can deliver. Share your fight predictions and be featured in the broadcast. For both new fans and longtime MMA aficionados, Ringside Report MMA is the key to unlocking a richer UFC viewing experience. Become an MMA insider. Don't miss out on our exclusive content. Subscribe now and ensure you ring that bell for timely notifications.
Before we dive into today's action-packed broadcast, check out ringsidereport.net. Explore a wide range of exclusive articles and commentary that are specifically designed for the fans of pro wrestling and MMA. Did you miss a broadcast? No worries. We've expanded them all on our website. And don't forget to hit our store for exclusive merch and other must-have items, ringsidereport.net. Where the real action is.
We've got boosted odds coming. Dave's picks, which means I'm going to give you picks, and on the site, it'll say, like, you know, minus 200 or something, but then I'll call my buddies at Bet99. I'll be like, hey, could we give it a little better? And it'll be like minus 150, so there'll be more value.
What?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're going to add value to the picks. We're going to get boosted odds at Bet99 for the Ringside Report universe. For all the viewers, we're going to give you picks, and then we're going to be like, you know, there's a number here on this at Bet99, but maybe wait till Saturday morning, and there'll be a better number because we're going to give you those boosted odds. They're a sponsor, and I want them to do well, and they're helping the show and all of that, but at the same time, I want to give good picks and take them for everything they got, baby. But they got.
Well, that's what it comes down to.
You know what I mean?
Listen,
it's a weird relationship because I'm friendly with them and I want to do well and I want them to do well, but I also want us to do well, and for us to do well, we need to take money from them, which is part of the whole. It's part of the game, and they like it, and it's all fun. So we're gonna get some boosted odds, and we'll see how much we can boost them for the viewers, so we can make a lot of cash. Fights made for UFC 300. Conor McGregor plotting his comeback in the summer. It's the first show of 2024 on the Ringside Report Network. Let's begin.
Let's go!
We're here. We're doing it. I'm here. Fred's here. Fred's here.
Hola.
¿Qué pasa,
I'm
hermano?
watching your intro, and I'm seeing what's the toy or whatever behind you with Hogan and Mr. T.
Right now?
Yeah. I was curious.
Could it be this?
Oh, okay. It's nice.
Yeah. It's a big old Funko Pop Hulk Hogan. Hogan, Mr. T.
Answered my question.
I also have the Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 3 edition because I got a lot of Hulk Hogan stuff. I just got a new Hogan this week, Fred.
Cool.
Welcome. Very much.
Here's a new Hogan. Look at that.
Oh.
Thank you.
I would like to know if anybody knows out there, when did Hogan wear this outfit? I'm trying to place it. Like, I know it's got to be early 80s based on the look, but like maybe mid-80s. But when did Hogan wear this outfit? Could be late 80s. It's the 80s, all right?
Very much.
But when did Hogan wear this outfit? Because I can't really place it. But I do think it's cool with the white Hulkamania shirt and the white Hulkster bandana.
Very much.
Had to import this from America.
Nice. Very nice.
I'm a big Hulk Hogan
I would
collector. I like Hogan
Like
stuff.
it's probably pre WrestleMania 3 because he seems to have a lot of hair on his head.
Yeah.
And WrestleMania 3 he's already much balder.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's
We're
like
celebrating 40 years of Hulkamania, I think, this week.
Yes, I heard. And I heard WWE's going to put out some special merch and collectibles and stuff. And I was like, uh-oh.
Thanks.
I'm going to have to get some of that stuff, brother. Because, I mean, I see the Hulk Hogan Macho Man picture behind you. We're both Hulkamaniacs. We both grew up in that era. Can't help but be a Hulkamaniac. Despite the rampant racism from Terry Bollea. I mean, the Hulk Hogan, you know, the character of Hulk Hogan is still cool.
He got baptized recently, man. I think he found a peaceful way of living.
Are you trying to tell me that the guy who said take your vitamins and say your prayers, the say your prayers guy has found religion? I mean, hasn't he always had that? He was the say your prayers guy.
No, recently, man, he found he found his way back to religion, I think. I'm not sure, but recently there were stories about him.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not racist. You know, you could be religious and racist at the same time. You know, those two things aren't necessarily different. You could separate them, or you could keep them together. Luck of the draw, I suppose.
So since we're on wrestling, man, I'm gonna tease you on that, man.
Go for it.
Because I do want you to know your opinion. So, any chance The Rock faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, or is it gonna be at that other pay-per-view?
It's got to be at WrestleMania. It's got to be at WrestleMania. I know people are saying it's going to be at Elimination Chamber. We're going to talk MMA in a bit here. Shout out Angelo watching us right now live. Shout out Johnny North. Shout out CSL Lorne. It's got to be at WrestleMania. Because, to me, it's the biggest match you could possibly do in professional wrestling. It's The Rock versus Roman Reigns, the biggest star maybe ever in wrestling history, The Rock, versus the biggest star currently in wrestling, Roman Reigns. They happen to have that Samoan dynasty thing going on for both of them. They say they're cousins. They're not actually related, but, you know, for the purpose of the storyline, them being cousins works very well. And people are saying it's going to happen at Elimination Chamber in February. I think those people are just hopeful because they want Cody Rhodes to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania and finish the story and beat Roman and do all that. I don't think that's going to happen. The Elimination Chamber pay-per-view is in Australia and starts at 4:30 in the morning Eastern time. Do you think they're going to do The Rock versus Roman Reigns, the biggest match they could possibly do, at 4:30 in the morning? Like, why would they do that? It doesn't make any kind of sense. And I know that there are people on the internet right now who will tell you, who will swear to you that that is when this match will take place. That is when this match must take place, even. And I would counter to that, no. Rock versus Roman is the biggest match. You have the biggest match on the biggest show, which is obviously WrestleMania.
And that's why you need to tune in tomorrow, because Dave is the man to make sense of all this. I don't really follow wrestling, but you just explained everything for me perfectly. And I'll just say this, man. I hope The Rock shows up at Royal Rumble number 30, because we don't need to make him work hard. Gets there and eliminates both Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. Because I don't think either of these two guys should be beating me, even fighting Roman. I don't want to see a Cody Rhodes rematch, man. He failed last year. I don't need to see it again. And CM Punk, I'm sorry, I'm just not a CM Punk fan, man. Philip doesn't do it for me. So The Rock wins the Royal Rumble, faces Roman Reigns. Come on, man. Make it happen, Vince.
I don't think that's going to be the path, Fred. I think that CM Punk is going to win the Royal Rumble, and he's going to challenge the World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. And then The Rock will find his way to a match with Roman Reigns another way. But it's possible that The Rock is willing to show up at Elimination Chamber and maybe even wrestle in the Elimination Chamber to earn a shot at Roman. But I think that's
he's
unwise.
A busy guy, man. He's not.
I don't
think he's giving
too.
you 2 dates.
He's also older and very muscle bound and doesn't wrestle very often, and he could get hurt. And if he gets hurt, then you blow WrestleMania. So I think you don't have him wrestle at all. You wouldn't even put him in the Rumble. I don't think you touch The Rock until he wrestles Roman. You keep him on ice. You keep him safe until he can wrestle Roman Reigns. There's no reason for The Rock to have to win a match to challenge Roman Reigns. He's The Rock. It's just how it works. He could say, I'm the head of the table, and Roman's like, no. And Rock's like, acknowledge me, And people could go, ooh, and then Roman could just challenge The Rock. I mean, there's many ways to do it. But I think that's what's going to happen. And I'm thrilled that they're finally doing this. I've been asking for this match for years. What?
And The Rock, I hope he jobs. Rock better be jobbing.
Oh, of course. Certainly. He must lose. He must lose to the tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns. That's right. We just acknowledged. Angelo asking, where's AJ? I don't know.
He's reading the Epstein list, I think.
Yeah.
He has the Epstein list, and he's just going through it, preparing himself for next week. He's going to be on fire with that.
Yep. He's just reading the list, going through it, making sure he's not on it, I think. He's just like, all right, I got to make sure. I think Jimmy Kimmel said I was on this thing, so he's just reading through it. Making sure. I know I confused a lot of things there. It was Aaron Rodgers who said that maybe Jimmy Kimmel was on the list, and now Jimmy Kimmel is going to press charges or sue him or something, possibly. He kind of threatened, hey, I might sue you if you keep talking. And then the list came out, and people went through it, and it turns out Jimmy Kimmel was not on the Epstein list. Kimmel's like, I never met Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know this guy.
That came out right now.
Was it just a partial list, Fred? Okay, I didn't know.
I think so, yeah.
But all the names that have come out so far are like Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and we're like, yeah, we know. Who else? Is Donald Trump on the list? I think he was, right?
Yeah, but they're not suspecting any foul play from him.
Yeah, just because you're in the list of names doesn't mean you necessarily did anything, and everybody's got to be real careful about saying that. But if you're on the list of names, it's not a list of names you want to be on. It's not the list that is fun to be on. Even if you've done nothing wrong, you don't want to be listed among the associates of Jeffrey Epstein in court documents. It's not a good look. It's not good. It's like if your name was on that, you'd be like, damn, man, that sucks. I know I didn't do anything. I just went. We had a sandwich, and then I went home. But I'm on those flight logs. It sucks. I saw no one there. Can't believe it. It's crazy. I had a sandwich. This guy tricked me. He said we're going to have a good time. He offered me a ham sandwich. It's very strange. You know, that might have happened to some dude, Fred. It might have happened to Bill Clinton 78 times or whatever. Unlikely. It's weird stuff there. Who knows what went on there. But that's what AJ's doing, I think. He's also going through whatever else. I don't know. He says he'll be back next week, so AJ will be back next week, and we wish him well. We hope he's doing well. I just said, hey, AJ, back next week. What's up? How you doing? And, like, he didn't write back, so I don't know. We'll see. We got UFC 300 coming up this year in, April, right?
Yep.
So this is kind of like the WrestleMania for the UFC, right? This is maybe almost bigger as far as the expectations. AJ's having a ham sandwich. No, that guy died. He's not having ham sandwiches with him anymore. It's the last time you invite me over for a ham sandwich. There's a lot of expectations for UFC 300. You know? And I wonder if maybe we've set our expectations too high. And we were talking about it a bit before the show as far as a draw for the UFC. And Conor McGregor can fall into this conversation because he came out on Twitter over the past few days and said that he's going to come back, fight Michael Chandler on June 29th, which is a Saturday, so it's possible. But that's June 29th. That's not in April. That's not UFC 300. Conor also said the fight's going to be at 185 pounds, which, what? What do you mean? But so, Conor's not fighting at UFC 300. So he's the biggest fighter, biggest name fighter that the UFC could possibly pull out to main event this thing or to appear on this thing or whatever. So then you start to wonder, okay, well, who is on the UFC roster that is a draw? And with John Jones injured, past him, who sells for the UFC? And Fred, you were talking about it before, you're very correct. Who is the biggest draw in the UFC next to Conor and John Jones? Is it Israel Adesanya? Is it Sean O'Malley? Is it, it's a question.
As far as pay-per-view numbers, I'm not sure. I don't have it in front of me. If you ask me of popularity, I'll say it's either O'Malley or Strickland who is getting a lot of popularity, good and bad, but he's getting people to talk about him, and I think that's always important. People have to care, whether they like you or hate you. If they care, they're going to want to watch you. So those would be my two names, but yeah, O'Malley has a fight, I think, at 299 or 298, so he won't be available. I'm not sure who's going to main event 300. The rumors are they would like Islam, I think, against HG as a possibility. That would be a good fight. There's rumors of maybe Masvidal coming back because he announced that he's unretiring. So who knows? Masvidal was always a draw. He's somebody maybe you put the main event to prelim or open up the pay-per-view. But yeah, there's a lot of expectation, and I'm not sure. I'm sure they're going to deliver on the quality of fights. I'm not sure they're going to deliver on the star power because there's a little lack of star power right now. With John Jones on the shelf and Conor not back, those are your two big draws.
I wonder what they do. You mentioned the Islam Makhachev Justin Gaethje fight. I think that would be an excellent main event, but I think we've talked about Islam for that fight, and it really is not just his name, but his religion, which will come into play because Ramadan starts March 10th and ends April 8th, which would be smack in the middle of a training camp for an April fight for Islam Makhachev. And we know from Khabib and all those guys from that team, they don't usually take fights right after Ramadan because the training is not proper for a world championship performance. So, I think Islam versus Gaethje is the fight to make. I know people were saying that it would be Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev for the title next, but I'm not interested in that. I think that Oliveira already fought Islam, and the results were clear. I don't see what another fight changes, and I think Gaethje is a fresh matchup, a deserving opponent after beating Rafael Fiziev and Dustin Poirier back-to-back in 2023. Gaethje was a candidate for Fighter of the Year. So I think Gaethje is not only a game opponent, a new opponent, but I think is also a bigger star and a bigger draw for a pay-per-view for Islam Makhachev. The only problem is, for UFC, as far as 300, I don't think Islam would take that fight. So if he doesn't, then you look at other matchups, and there were rumors of Israel Adesanya maybe coming out of retirement and fighting Alex Pereira in a trilogy fight for the 205-pound title. I think that would be a massive main event if they could put that together. Maybe they're waiting for Sean Strickland. Maybe Strickland, if he has an impressive performance over Dricus, maybe he moves up immediately and rematches
Strickland
Pereira.
Adesanya.
Strickland
right
Adesanya could be a turnaround fight for Strickland there. They could do the rematch at 300. There are options with Sean Strickland if he wants to come back and fight immediately, which, judging by his public persona, he seems ready to fight, constantly. He's fighting in the crowd.
Even if DDP wins, him against Adesanya could be also a very good fight to make for 300. So yeah, there's some options, but right now it looks like you don't know what's going to happen. So let's hope they put something good, and I'm sure they will. But the star power, man, they need to build a couple of new stars. Like, keep promoting. I hope like Sean Malley has an impressive fight against Vera and becomes even a bigger star. And they need to build some stardom a little bit.
I think Sean O'Malley is going to be a step forward for them as far as stars for the company, guys that can really draw pay-per-views.
Even that Aspinall guy, man, he's coming up, and he's been impressive. That win against Pavlovich. Look, if he's impressive in another win, trust me, man, the country of England is going to get behind him, and he's going to become a star just by that. So there's potential. Let's just hope the cards fall into place.
Aspinall hasn't really been a dynamic talker. And I think that's been a reason why people haven't been drawn to him. He just doesn't have that personality. It doesn't have the same personality as some of these other guys in the UFC, like a Sean O'Malley, who goes out there and he talks trash. There's talk now about Leon Edwards against Bilal Muhammad at UFC 300 for the welterweight title.
Yeah. But then again, that's not a fight. Like, if that's the co-main event, that's a great co-main event. But I don't think that's the headline you want for a 300,
I think that's fine, honestly. If you have, because the UFC 200 main event, I think, was Amanda Nunes against maybe Holly Holm or something. Hold on, I'll give you the UFC 200 main event. But it was like, I think if you had, there's rumors of Jorge Masvidal coming back and fighting, and he's a massive draw. He could fight, and Ben Askren saying he wants to fight him. If those two guys fight, and it's the co-main event of a Leon Edwards Bilal Muhammad pay-per-view, that's pretty solid. And if you stack it up with Miesha Tate, who says she wants to fight Holly Holm, that would be a cool fight you could add on to the pay-per-view. There are some cool matchups, some good fights you could put together that could support Leon Edwards Bilal Muhammad, where that fight by itself may not be the biggest draw. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is maybe a bigger draw right now, but Bilal has won a lot of fights, and it's hard to deny him. So giving him that main event, UFC 300, and then stacking the undercard with Jorge Masvidal with some other cool fights, I think you could do it. That's not bad.
Yeah, that would be decent. It would be better if Strickland faces Adesanya and Edwards and Bilal is the co-main event, something like that. But yeah, that would be good, man. Like you said, man, we put the expectations maybe too high, so we got to be reasonable. And yeah, having Bilal, Leon, and all those other matchups, Misha, Holly Holm would be great. Would be like veterans. But that's the thing. You see Misha, Holly Holm, Masvidal, Askren. Like, I love these old school matchups, but I'd like to see some of these more current fighters also.
You'll get it, Fred, because the UFC has already announced 3 fights for UFC 300, including who I think is a future champion in the division and a very bright young prospect, Bo Nickel. He's going to be fighting at UFC 300 against Cody Brundage. You could throw Bo Nickel on the pay-per-view because, for me and a lot of fans, he is a draw already because you want to see what he's going to do next because he's been so
he's
dominant.
Opening up a show, though, they said.
Like first fight on the first prelim, Bo Nickel?
I think. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think I read.
They also have former bantamweight champion moving up to 145 pounds, Aljamain Sterling, jumping to featherweight to fight Calvin Kattar. That's a good fight. And Yuri Prochazka is on the card. He's taking on Aleksandar Rakic. So, I mean, if you did, say, like 5-fight main card pay-per-view, right? Leon versus Bilal, Jorge versus Askren, and then Aljamain versus Kattar, Yuri versus Rakic, and say Misha versus Holly. That's a cool pay-per-view. That's UFC 300. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's a great pay-per-view. A couple of years ago, Dana said he wished he would up the numbering because, like, it's just like there's been much more than 300 events and all that. So this is more of a symbolic gesture to make it a big event because it's UFC 300. But what does it really mean? As long as they're giving us a great pay-per-view, that's what it counts. And yeah, that would be a great pay-per-view.
I mean, I think it means something because UFC 100 was stacked, like double stacked, and UFC 200. Like, they followed up with UFC 200. That's it. Like, people traveled from everywhere because it was a big deal. It felt like a moment for the sport. It's like we've had 100 UFC pay-per-views. This is amazing. And then when UFC 200 came around, it was like, yeah, this is another big moment. And UFC 200 was main evented by Amanda Nunes and Miesha Tate. Brock Lesnar, Mark Hunt was the co-main event. Daniel Cormier, Anderson Silva was on that card. Jose Aldo versus Frankie Edgar, and Cain Velasquez versus Travis Brown.
Wasn't Cormier supposed to face John Jones? And
in the main
Anderson
event.
filled in?
Yes.
Filled in last second.
Which is crazy. That would have been, the main event would have been John Jones, Daniel Cormier. But yeah, Anderson filled in last minute. I mean, UFC 200 sounds better than the UFC 300 card we just talked about, doesn't it?
Yeah.
UFC 100 main
on
evented
the star
by
power, yeah.
I mean, UFC 100 and UFC 200 had Brock Lesnar. Unless you give me Brock Lesnar at UFC 300, I'm not really impressed. UFC 100 main evented by Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir, GSP versus Thiago Alves in the co-main event, Dan Henderson, Michael Bisping. I mean, come on.
I'll tell you, there will be somebody that's going to be a fighter that participated in UFC 100, 200, and 300, but it won't be Brock Lesnar. It's going to be, you know who?
Let
Jim
me
Miller.
see. Who?
Jim Miller. He said he wants to participate at 300, and he was at 200 and at 100. So
that's true. He'll be on UFC 300. They'll find a spot for him. He won in the UFC in June, right? So,
yep.
40 years old. Yeah. Well, that's cool for Jim Miller. But wouldn't it be cool for Brock Lesnar, too? What about old Brock? Can we get Brock out of retirement? Can we have Brock fight somebody?
What date is WrestleMania? Because I think it might conflict.
WrestleMania, I think it would be a couple weeks before UFC 300.
UFC 300 is on April 13th, so he's like 2 weeks before.
Who says Brock's going to even be at WrestleMania?
He's going to be at WrestleMania.
I'm not sure about that. Against who?
Who did he fight last year? Some jabroni.
Omos. Yeah, because I think they ran out of ideas for him. Omos had a match with Brock, lost to Brock, but we haven't really seen much of Omos since.
They'll throw somebody in for a beatdown, and Brock will have fun.
He might be on the show, but I'm telling you, he might not be at WrestleMania, because right now, like, we're leading into the Royal Rumble, right? Haven't seen Brock. He might return in the Royal Rumble. Like, he might be one of the Rumble participants. He might be in the Rumble. But I haven't seen Brock
at this
in a
stage
while.
in his career, man. He could just come like 3 weeks before WrestleMania, say he wants a match.
Yeah.
They'll book him a squash match, and they'll promote it, and people will be crazy. They'll yell Suplex City.
Yeah. I don't know if he wants to
That's
come
what
back
his career
for just
is right now.
a match. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's a possibility, but I don't know. Like, right now, given what the WWE has, the amount of stars that they have, they really don't need Brock Lesnar. When you have The Rock, you have CM Punk, I mean, you don't really need Brock Lesnar. They got a lot of stars. The WWE
You don't turn
has, like,
down Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, but you also don't spend the money if you don't have to. Because there's really nothing for him to do. Like, if you look at the roster, there's no one for him to really wrestle anymore. He's kind of done everything. There's not much to do. So, I'm not sure Brock Lesnar's going to be at WrestleMania. I would rather see him fight at UFC 300. Who could Brock fight? Derek Lewis. Give it to me.
Go for it.
That'd be sick. Give me Brock and Derek Lewis. That'd be a money fight. Put that on the pay-per-view. Thank you, Dana White. Okay, so UFC 300, we're hoping for the best. They still haven't announced the main event. They've announced 3 fights, like I said. Yuri Prochazka, Aleksandar Rakic. That's a good fight at light heavyweight. Right off the bat, I'd go with Yuri, right? Rakic is
Sorry,
good, though.
repeat that.
I would go
Rakic
with
and Yuri.
Yuri. Who you going with?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Yuri.
Yuri got beat up last time, though. Like, Yuri got beat up by Pereira. It didn't look so good for Yuri. And Rakic is serious. Like, it's going to be an interesting comeback fight for Yuri after that, beatdown from Pereira. Aljamain and Calvin Kattar. Aljamain, I guess, moving up to 145, and then that's it. No more bantamweight.
I'll see. Aljamain was very successful at 135 because he was bigger than a lot of guys. So let's see if he's not bigger, if he can't out muscle guys, if he has the same success. It's gonna be interesting. Like most guys, which veteran really went up in a weight class? Like GSP became a champion, but he only had one middleweight fight. But who, like maybe Dos Anjos, he went up from 155 and still had some success at 170. But it's rare guys that go up a weight class and have multiple fights and are really like actually successful in the upper weight class. Cormier when he went heavyweight, but that's probably different. But there's not
Pereira?
that many examples of. Yeah, Pereira. Yeah, let's see if he keeps on winning. But yeah, that's a good example.
Couple big wins, though, for him, right? He beat Yan. He beat Yuri.
Yeah.
He's a world champion.
Yeah, look,
That was
maybe
surprising
Sterling
to
does
me.
it.
Maybe he does. Maybe he does.
But I feel there's also examples of guys that, just don't do much once they change weight class, especially if they go up a weight class.
Yeah, but he was very, very skilled, and if the skills translate up to 145, like if he's the same guy he was at 135 at 145, he's a real threat to everybody in the division. Volkanovski, Topuria, everybody. Calvin Kattar, who he's going to fight. I think Aljamain could win that fight. Bo Nickel, Cody Brundage. I mean, I think everybody in the world's going to pick Bo Nickel in that one. I think he's going to come in as a massive favorite because there's no reason to think of him as anything but a massive favorite to win all his fights. He's just crushing people. Incredible wrestling and putting it together with the striking as well. So that's UFC 300. For more on UFC 300, check out our website, ringsidereport.net. There's always info and news from the MMA and pro wrestling world over on our website, ringsidereport.net. You can also get some great merch over at merch.ringsidereport.net. I think Bo Nickel is possibly a future world champion at 185. I think another guy who might fight for the title, might become the world champion at 185 is Khamzat Chimaev. He had a win recently over Kamaru Usman, and then a few days ago posted this. Can I show this to you? Yeah. So this is a picture of him. He says, "I was very sick. My hand was injured, so I couldn't return right away. I want to tell all the fountains, I want to see myself in battle more than all of you. I love this job. I will do and prove that I am the best. As always, we do, and I will be back soon to Inshallah training." The fountains, I think maybe the fans, I don't know. But look, he looks really sick.
Doesn't look the same.
No, he
doesn't look the same.
I mean, he's got like this rash on his body. Look at his body. It's like a weird color. Something happened to him. He went through some sort of illness after his fight with Kamaru Usman. And he posted this, and then he deleted it. So I don't know what's going on with him. But he injured his hand. So there's a picture of his hand injured. But like something else happened to him. He got really sick in the hospital. Like, look at his eyeball. What's going on there? So wishing the best for Khamzat Chimaev, who, this isn't the first time. He had COVID, right? And he was very sick there, and there was talk of retirement, and now this. What's weird is he posted this and then deleted it. I don't know what's going on. And that's probably the reason why we haven't heard from Khamzat Chimaev as far as a next fight, a next move. He seems like a guy who wants to stay active, who wants to keep fighting, but he's running into some medical issues. So wishing him the best, and hopefully he can come back soon, because he would be a great addition to UFC 300, right? Him and Paulo Costa, something like that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, he's a guy that if he keeps on this trajectory, we're going to say, what if, because there seems to always be an issue that slows him down, unfortunately, because we've been talking about Khamzat for what now? A good 2-3 years, but he hasn't been as active as we want in those 2-3 years. There's always something happening.
And, there's key fights that are dropping out. His past two opponents haven't been the opponents announced. He fought Kevin Holland when he was supposed to fight Nate Diaz, but he didn't make weight for the fight with Nate, so they had him fight Holland instead on the same card. And then he was supposed to fight Paulo Costa, but Paulo Costa pulled out of the fight, so he winds up fighting Kamaru Usman at 185 pounds because the UFC doesn't trust him to go and fight at 170 anymore. So it's tough, right? Because you look at him and you go, well, he's winning all his fights, he's crushing the competition, he's got a ton of potential. The guys he's beating are welterweights. He's beating Gilbert Burns at welterweight. He's beating Kevin Holland, who fights at welterweight now. And he's beating Kamaru Usman, who's the former welterweight champion, who was fighting at middleweight, but, he's a welterweight. So, okay, he's a welterweight beating other welterweights at middleweight. He did beat Gilbert Burns at welterweight. He was able to make weight for that, I think. He might have been a pound over. I'm not even sure. But he's struggled with the weight. They've made him go up to 185. He's kind of in between. And he's maybe, one of these people that say, how come it's 170 to 185? How come it's not 165, 175, 185? Like, why does it go for the men's divisions? Why does it go 125, 135, 145, 155, and then from 155 to 170, which is a 15-pound jump, and then from 170 to 185, which is another 15-pound jump, and then from 185 to 205, which is a 20-pound jump? It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but people in MMA, for some reason, want to keep it that way forever. I think eventually we're going to have to change it, but I think Khamzat is kind of an in-betweener, where he might be the 175-pound champion of the world, but he has trouble making 170, so they're making him fight at 185, but he hasn't fought any legit 185 contenders. So you go, he might be a champion or a contender at 185, but he hasn't really fought anybody. That's why the Paulo Costa fight was so interesting, because Paulo Costa is a big, legitimate 185-pounder. He's a real middleweight. So if Khamzat fought him and beat him, you'd go, okay, well, that's where he sits in the middleweight division. But right now we don't know. It's a lot of questions with Khamzat. You think he's awesome, but, like, what division does he fight in? What's he doing?
He's probably, right now with the current weight structure, he's probably a 185. I think that 170 is a little too hard for him to make it. And right now, I'm not sure if he would be in the title picture, because, I mean, Strickland, DDP, and Adesanya are probably like the three names. I would think whoever wins between Strickland and DDP, Adesanya makes sense as a fight, because there's the beef between him and Dricus, and there's the rematch to do against Strickland. So for right now, if anything, there's never a good time to be out of action because of injury or illness, but at least right now his name stays in the conversation of being a title contender without him having to defend that name, that accolade.
Yeah.
So hopefully he comes back and he gets a good fight. And you see, with him being a contender right now, he's one fight away from a title fight. So if he comes back in 8 months and is impressive against a semi-decent name, he's going to be a title contender. He might be the next title contender. So I'm not going to be completely off Khamzat for right now. But yeah, I'd like to see him active. I'd like to, and just as far as a human aspect, I'd like to see him not ill, because that slows down his fighting, but also it's not good for him personally.
Yeah.
And hopefully he's able to put a 2024 with at least 2 fights,
Yeah, and like you said, a fight or two, and he's in title contention. Like, all he had to do was beat Paulo Costa. If Paulo Costa would have shown up to fight and Khamzat would have fought him and beat him, people would have said, okay, well, maybe you give Khamzat a title shot now, because look at Khamzat. He's beating real middleweights. He's crushing them. No one seems to be able to touch him. Let's see how far this guy can go. Put him in against Strickland or whatever. But because, he hasn't proven the things he needs to prove at middleweight, and he hasn't been able to stay making welterweight, he's struggled to find himself in title contention, which is too bad for Khamzat, because he's definitely a dynamic personality, a guy that people want to see fight. He's a star in the UFC, and it seems like he's unbeatable, at least in his fights. He hasn't been beaten, and he's very dominant. So we'd like to see how far this guy can go.
He seems to embrace also the stardom and the attention, whereas Islam, he's a very quiet guy. It seems you don't hear that much from him. He doesn't speak the language also. Same thing with Khabib when he was a champion, whereas Khamzat seems to embrace more the stardom and wanting that camera in his face to say, I'm the best and all that. And people like that. It's fun. We like the bravado.
Yeah, he's got a great personality. He talks a lot of trash. He's winning fights. Like, all the elements are there. It's just certain things aren't coming into place. And if the chips fall where they should for him, sky's the limit. The UFC could have themselves a great new star. Now, we keep circling back to Israel Adesanya. Do you think they need Adesanya for UFC 300? And do you think that it's possible that they're waiting for the Strickland-Dricus Duplessis fight to kind of figure out what to do? Like, do you think the UFC maybe has Adesanya penciled in, and they're like, it might be Strickland, it might be Duplessis, it might even be Pereira. They're just trying to kind of figure out how the Strickland-Duplessis fight goes in a couple of weeks here in Toronto, and then they'll make a decision there. Like, is Adesanya the main guy as far as headlining this show? Like, is he the guy, or could they go with Leon and Bilal? Is that...
Well, before the show, we were talking about it, and I did zero thinking on the subject. But as we speak right now tonight about it, I think, yes, Adesanya is your best option. Out of all the names that we mentioned, he is the biggest star. And if you could match him against Dricus, there's definitely that beef aspect that is going to give you a lot of good clips to sell. And if it's Sean Strickland, same thing, man. You're going to be able to sell that rematch. So, yeah, I think that's the most appealing matchup that you can make for 300. And I don't know if that's the plans of the UFC, but that would be my number one match to put on that card. And hey, just put also Bilal and Leon as the co-main event. Like UFC 100 had 2 title fights. UFC 200 was supposed to have 2 title fights because there was supposed to be Amanda and there was supposed to be John Jones and Cormier. So why not have 2 title fights for this one also?
Would you buy Israel Adesanya getting a title shot coming off that loss to
not?
Sean Strickland? Like, say Israel Adesanya moves up to 205 and fights Pereira. Would you be all right with that?
I don't like that option as much.
How about Strickland winning the fight against Duplessis and moving up immediately to fight for the light heavyweight belt? A rematch with Pereira, who knocked him out at middleweight.
I'd watch it, but that's not what I would. I would recommend Strickland to stay at 185. I'm not too crazy about all these guys going up a weight class too quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like same thing with Makhachev. People are like, "Oh, Makhachev might go up a weight class." I'm like, there's still some decent. I want to see him fight Gaethje. Yeah, I expect Makhachev to beat Gaethje. Still want to see him fight. Like there's matchups for him at 155 left. And the same thing for Strickland. Like, even if he beats Dricus, Israel definitely should have a rematch against Strickland. Like, Israel had a fight planned, but they, like, it was on 6 weeks' notice or something like that, even less maybe. So give him a full camp. Maybe he doesn't take him lightly because I think maybe that happened in the first fight where Israel underestimated Sean. And I'm sure if he gets a rematch, you could expect the best Israel Adesanya out there. Like, he's not going to come in. He knows what Sean Strickland can do to him now. So he better be like on his top game if he gets a rematch. And that's what I would expect him to be on. So yeah, that'd be great, man.
And Sean Strickland is headlining the next UFC pay-per-view, UFC 297, January 20th in Toronto. Sean Strickland, Dricus Duplessis. What's your read on that fight right now? Because this one is tough for me to pick a winner. Strickland looked so good in that last fight against Adesanya, but something just felt off about Adesanya in that fight, and I wonder. And Dricus Duplessis has just been on a tear. The way he smashed Robert Whittaker, I don't think this is going to be the same type of fight for Strickland. With that, as the Adesanya fight, I think Dricus presents a completely different style, completely different problems for Sean Strickland, and I think he's a similar fighter to Sean Strickland, which may cause Strickland some issues, because I feel like Dricus maybe does a lot of things that Strickland does, but maybe at a slightly higher level. So I'm leaning towards Dricus right now. I feel like we're going to have a new champion again. I think DDP is going to start 2024 with a bang. You know what I mean? DDP? Bang.
I'm leaning also towards DDP. My reasoning is more that I see him as a bigger, better, stronger athlete. But with that said, I saw some recent footage of Strickland training, and Strickland's a big guy also. Like, he's not a small middleweight. He's pretty thick. He's pretty strong. So it is going to give us a interesting matchup. I'm going to stick with DDP, but I think I don't have the odds. Maybe you could research them as I talk, but
yes,
I would expect it to be close to a pick 'em. Like maybe DDP a slight favorite. Like I don't think it. I'd say minus 130 DDP, plus 110 Strickland, something like that. Maybe much more of a gap than that.
I will be able to tell you here in a moment. I think I had it. I had it. Here we go. Sean Strickland. No, I don't have it. God damn, that's weird. Hold on. Let me get you the odds for this, Fred. I think Strickland was the favorite. What is that?
Strickland is the favorite. You see, I think I would put Dricus a little favorite because that's who I'm picking, but it's a very close fight.
Strickland is the favorite minus 130. Dricus plus 110.
You see, I switched the names. Those were the odds I said, but I had the opposite. But yeah, that seems like reasonable odds where it's a pretty close fight, man. It could go either way. I'm gonna go with Dricus. I like he's big, he's strong, he seems athletic, he seems to have some pop in his movement. You know, like if he needs to go from point A to point B, it's very dynamic, very athletic. So whereas Strickland is maybe more of a slow down type of fighter where he wants to slow it down and just brawl it out. But I'm gonna go with Dricus and his athleticism.
Dricus du Plessis right now is the underdog. Here, bet 99 odds. Sean Strickland minus 125, Dricus plus 105. $20 on Dricus gets you 41 at bet99.com. Fred and I are both picking Dricus. You might want to jump on that UFC 297. And you know the odds change all the time. This is a close fight. Right now you're getting Dricus at plus money at bet99.com. Use that promo code ringside when you sign up. Sign up with us over at bet99.com. Plus 105 DDP right now. 20 gets you 41. Double your money at bet99. If 20 gets you 41, imagine what 100 gets you, Fred. Gets you 200. 205 to be exact. Imagine what 10,000 gets you. All right, let's not fantasize about money we don't have. But let's, I'm not betting 10,000. I'm not
gamble reasonably, everybody.
Yeah, that's right. I gamble within my means. When I say $20 on a fight, that's because, those are the means. I'm not trying to go crazy here. I'm not trying to bet $10,000 on a fight because if I did, I'd be betting money I don't have, and then I would lose it, and I would be screwed.
Drake.
Yeah, I'd be screwed. No, Drake bets like $500,000. Drake is like, 10,000 for Drake is like pointless to bet on. 10,000 for me is like life shattering to lose. For him it's like, I didn't even notice. He loses like $500,000. He's like, try it again next week, and I'm like, what? Can I just have that? Can you just give it to me instead, and it would change my life forever? No. Fucking capitalism, am I right? It's crazy. What a system. Oh, this is a weird commercial. So
I'm almost wanting to jump in with a commie chant. Commie.
Me? Me? Take it easy. Okay, so let me tell you why also I'm betting against Sean Strickland. I'm going to give you another reason why I think Dricus is a good bet and will help me make some money. I watched the entire Sean Strickland Theo Von podcast. I watched the whole thing. And, I mean, if you've heard of it, if you've seen clips, Sean Strickland talks about his philosophies about life, about women, and how they shouldn't be able to vote because it has lessened the worth of men. I don't even know what it was a lot of nonsense, but it comes from a place where he did not go to school. His parents treated him terribly and were abusive, not sexually abusive as some of his UFC fighters have suggested at press conferences to boost their, sell a fight maybe. I don't know what Sean O'Malley was saying to Sean Strickland, why he was saying that stuff for, but he did. But, there was violence and there was bad stuff in Sean Strickland's home, and he talked about that quite a bit. He cried at one point, really it was some raw emotion, and it made you feel quite sorry for Sean Strickland and everything that he has gone through, because he sounds like he has had a horrific life that I could not imagine. My parents treated me well. And they still do. So, Sean Strickland has had it way tougher than me or most people, right? But I just, seeing him talk at length for like 2 hours makes me go, oof.
But this is like not all going those well. Emotions were there before the Adesanya fight, and he still showed up. So
yeah,
I'm not sure that's a point to say that's why he won't be able to beat Dricus. If anything, all those hardship has made him what he is today.
But it's different now that he's the champion. I feel like he's speaking more freely. He's more out there. He's more in demand. There's more pressures. And he's the press conferences and the interviews are getting more and more kind of out there with Sean Strickland. Like, it's not like, it's always been kind of out there, but it's some of the stuff he's saying, you go, man. And he even said it. He's like, if I played baseball, if I was in the NBA, they'd kick me out for sure. And he's right. If an NBA player or an NFL player or an MLB player said women shouldn't be able to vote, the league would probably sanction them in some way. Not in the UFC. And I was talking to a couple buddies of mine over the weekend, and they used to be UFC fans. And
after the show, I want you to search Google for Charles Barkley and Women of San Antonio.
Okay, but when was this? When was this?
Oh, it's for the past 10 years, man. Charles Barkley has been having fun with the big old woman from San Antonio, as he says it. So,
well, he doesn't play in the NBA right now.
He's on TNT, man. He's making millions with them, and it hasn't stopped him, man. I don't know, man. I think you gotta take what Sean Strickland says with a grain of salt, man. You're not looking at Sean Strickland for some wisdom, man.
No.
If that's where you're looking for your wisdom, man, you have issues.
Not. Sure.
And I'm not talking about you. I'm just like people that say like, oh, Sean Strickland's a bad example. Sean Strickland should not be your example, period. Let me tell you that.
No. But a lot of the things he says, he probably shouldn't say publicly. Like, it's just like, dude, okay. Because he's got these philosophies, and he's like, look, let me tell you how it is. It's like this. And you go, what? What do you mean? What are you talking about? And then you understand like where it's coming from. He doesn't seem to understand where it's coming from. He doesn't seem very self-aware, and it's just, I don't know. It sounded like a man spiraling out of control. And then he goes and he attacks Dricus at the fights. Like he's at the UFC watching the show. He fights his opponent. And sure, but people are saying all sorts of stuff to him. He's saying all sorts of stuff about other people.
You might be right.
Like
maybe he's not able to handle all that pressure, and
I think it's too much.
But I don't know. He came in so good against Adesanya. I gotta give him his strategy against Adesanya was excellent, and he beat him up for 5 rounds. So that's my last impression of Sean Strickland in the cage, and right now that's what I'm going with.
But he did it under the radar. He did it without a target on his back. He did it by beating Nasruddin Imavov, then Abu Sufyan Magomedov, 2 guys that basically unknown, and then
beat Adesanya.
But he beats Adesanya on short notice, kind of out of nowhere, gets the fight, did dominate him for sure, but now it's like, I think it's different, and I think it's a different pressure when you're the champion, when you got the target on your back, when everybody's looking at you, when everybody's paying attention to you, when everybody has a reason to talk about you. It's different. And just on that interview and on some of the actions lately, I go, oh, I don't know how he's handling this. And I don't know if this story is going to have a happy ending. I hope that it does for his sake because, like I said, he's been through so much. But, man.
It's already a happy ending, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
Don't be negative, man. From what he came from, man, that's great,
no, he
man.
says he's happy and he's doing everything, but, he's obviously got some anger issues still. There's, some lingering stuff. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I just think Dricus, fighting emotional is dangerous, and I wonder, how it's all going to go for Sean Strickland in that fight with Dricus, because obviously he's already very upset with him. He couldn't help himself. The last time they were in the same room together, Sean Strickland jumped him. They're going to do press conferences, like next week, the week after for the show in Toronto? I mean, they're going to start being near each other again. How is that all going to play out?
That's definitely an issue, because I think George St. Pierre used to say it, man. You don't want to fight mad. You want to fight with a level head. Like, people would trash talk George, and George would just let it run off his back. Like, he rarely got mad. Maybe once a little bit with Nick Diaz when he said, like, you don't think I've seen some bad stuff, or I don't remember the exact quotes, but he came back to Nick one.
Yeah, but then Nick shut him down like really hard. Like, I remember that press conference. That was crazy. George is like, Nick's like, you grew up easy. It wasn't hard for you, blah, blah, blah. And George is like, you think it's easy for me? You think it was always easy, da, da, da. And then Nick fires back, you ever seen your friend get shot right in front of you, get murdered right in front of you? You ever seen guns pulled on you? It was like Nick went like really hard, and George was like, well, no, I mean, that hasn't happened to me. That's what? What do you mean? You ever have your friends murdered in front of you, and then they pointed guns on you and say you're next? Like, what? What do you mean, Nick Diaz? You ever see 10 of your best friends and family members get shot in front of you? No. What? Like, Nick said some crazy shit where it was like, damn, man. Okay, maybe you have had it worse than me, my friend. Like, George was like, all right, I'm dealing with something else here, It's like I didn't have an easy life. I was bullied and everything, but, people weren't getting their brains blown out in front of me on a daily basis in Stockton, Like,
too bad George shut down that rumor of him and Nick Diaz fighting at UFC 300, man. And that would have been the headline.
That would have been the best. I would have loved to have seen George St. Pierre headline that show. Just be on that show. There's still hope, I guess, but doesn't look like it.
He shut down. He pretty much shut down him coming back to the octagon, period.
Do you think Connor's really going to fight Chandler at 185? 185 pounds?
I don't know, man. Seems like a waste of time right now, but like we said, Connor might be still the biggest star in the UFC, probably is. Is definitely one of the top draws, and the UFC need him. I feel they need him because, as we started the show, there's a little lack of star power maybe right now. So, yeah, you want Conor to come back, but 185 just seems like a money grab for Conor, because if he's really serious about his career, it's definitely not at 185. It might be at 170. I would like him more at 155. Maybe he has too much muscle right now, but him wanting to fight at 185 tells me that this guy doesn't want to cut weight. He just wants to come in, fight, make some money, and take another 18 months off. And I'll watch it because it's entertaining. But if AJ was here, he'd be telling us like, "Oh, Connor's back, blah blah blah." Connor's not back. Connor's back for a payday, and I respect that, man. It's a hard business. Good for him to make a lot of money. Don't make it more important than it actually is.
I hope he comes back. I think it'll be against Chandler. I just want to get it done. Whatever. If it's at 185 pounds, if it's at 300 pounds,
Chandler's
I don't really care.
Man, he'll look. Chandler probably walks over 170, maybe not too far away from 180, but Chandler's not a 185er. He's a short guy. Neither is Conor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Compare those guys to Dricus and Sean Strickland.
No, it makes no sense.
They're small.
But, I mean, whatever. Whatever you got to do to get Conor in the cage, if you got to make him fight at 185, whatever. Let him fight at 185. He wants to fight at 170 half the time. I mean, he's a 155er. He's the former 145-pound champion. Like, it's crazy. Chandler's a 155er. Conor's a 155er.
Yeah, he was cutting a lot of weight for 145. So I don't expect him ever to go back.
No,
155 or 170. Those are the two divisions for him.
Like 155 because that's your weight class, or 170 if you don't feel like cutting. 185 is ridiculous. It's just ludicrous. So, I mean, I hope it's not that, but you never know with Conor. You really never know. Whatever they have to do to get him in there. Shout out to Lior. Shout out to Angelo checking us out over at join.ringsidereport.net. Members of the team, join.ringsidereport.net. Lior wants to know where's AJ. AJ's off tonight. He will be back next week. He has assured me that he will be back next week, so we eagerly anticipate the return of the great AJ DeLesio next week to Ringside Report MMA. I will be back here tomorrow night with Johnny North to talk some pro wrestling. The Rock came back to the WWE. AEW was very mid this week, and we will talk about all of it, everything going on in the world of professional wrestling. WrestleMania season is approaching. It's 2024. SmackDown has a massive show tomorrow night. AJ Styles, Roman Reigns, and not Roman Reigns. AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and LA Knight in a triple threat, where the winner faces Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. So it's a big match on SmackDown tomorrow night, and we will talk about it and everything that happens on SmackDown, everything that happened on Raw and AEW Dynamite and leading into the Royal Rumble. The world of wrestling right now is very hot, and we will talk about everything tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right after SmackDown, right here on the Ringside Report Network.